What we have here for piecewise functions, we have a function f of x equals the absolute value of x plus 4, and we are given the domain -4, -1/2, 0, 3/4, and 2. So here we just have a function. We don't have any restrictions on it, so I'm simply going to substitute in -4 for x and then simplify. I'm going to use the equation tool here, and when I click on pi, it gives me all the other symbols that I need. I see absolute value, I see fractions, a divided by b. There are all kinds of symbols here under the equation toolbar. All right, so first I'm going to click, and then I'm going to put the absolute value. And we have -4 for x, and then +4. We see that the absolute value of -4 plus 4 is the absolute value of 0. And the absolute value of 0 equals 0. F of -4. So f of -1/2 equals, paste it in there. We have -1/2, here's my fraction, so 1/2. And so we see that we have f of -1/2 is the absolute value of -1/2 plus 4. So 4 minus 1/2 would be the absolute value of 3.5 is 3.5. So you're just substituting in values, and you get the absolute value of them and evaluating them. So that would be for number 1. For number 2, we're using this domain for number 2 as well, but we have a condition here. We have that I'm going to use -6x if x is less than 0. So which one of these x's in the domain is x, which one of these x's or a domain is less than 0? Whichever ones are less than 0, then I'm going to substitute them into -6x. So here for the first one I've already set up for you. F of -4, well, -4 is less than 0, so I'm going to substitute -4 in here. We get -6 times -4. And -6 times -4 is -24. Done. For the next one, we have f of -1/2. Well, where does -1/2 fit in? Is that x is less than 0 or x is greater than or equal to 0? -1/2 is less than 0. That is the condition. So I need to substitute it in here. 6 times 1/2, or half of 6 is 3. So we see that f of -1/2 equals 3. Okay, now for the next one. We are looking for 0 when x is 0 in the domain. Where does that fit into? When x is 0, is x less than 0? Because if it is, I'd put it into this function. Or is x greater than or equal to 0? Here is where it's equal to 0. So I'm using 0 in the domain. That means I will be substituting it into x plus 2. That will be 0 plus 2. So we have 0 plus 2 is 2. And so on. 3/4. Where am I going to put 3/4 into this piecewise function? 3/4 is not less than 0. 3/4 is greater than 0. So I will be substituting it into this function. And so when you're doing piece functions, you just need to substitute them into where they belong. Here is the next function, f of x. We have f of x equals 3 different functions with 3 different restrictions. The restrictions are not going to overlap at all. We have x is less than -1. We have that x is greater than or equal to -1 and less than 1. And then we have x is greater than 1. So when I look at my domain numbers, I will look at the restrictions, and that will tell me which one of these 3 functions that I'll be substituting in for.